Well, good afternoon. Welcome to day one of reInvent. My name is Jonathan Allen. I'm a director in the enterprise strategy team. Thank you for taking precious time out of your busy schedule of reInvent to be here. We greatly appreciate it. I've been with Amazon Web Services for 7 years. Prior to that, I was actually a customer. I spent 17 years working in Capital One as a divisional CTO as my final role. Learned a lot of lessons as Capital One migrated. And in the last 7 years, I've been privileged to work with over 1,300 customers as they've led their own migration and modernization journeys. This is actually the 7th time it's been my privilege to do this in 7 years, this presentation. And each year, I try to make sure that we're bringing the most powerful lessons for you to learn and succeed with your own journeys. And what customers have been really sharing with us in the last 12 months is that the majority of them absolutely want to transform as they migrate and modernize. Super important. In fact, they're looking for the full transformation experience, not just migration. They're looking to get operating model efficiencies and speed. They're looking to get agility, and that's crucial whether you're a public sector or a commercial organization. And they're absolutely looking to modernize as much as they can when they migrate. But there are some real lessons learned there that we want to share with you. And it's for these reasons that we've seen thousands and thousands of customers migrate and leverage Amazon Web Services as a means to an end for their business. Now, very often, when I'm speaking to customers like yourselves, they go, what are the most powerful lessons learned? What would you do, again, differently if you could do it? And the most powerful lesson learned for you all is, does your executive committee or your board, if you're a commercial organization or if you're a public sector organization, does your mission speak and do your leaders understand why you are doing this? And you may say, yes, of course they do, they have their support. But really, I would encourage you. There are so many great reasons to migrate and modernize. But what is your North Star? For so many customers I talk to, their North Star is actually this top left-hand one here, this delivery speed improvement that they're looking for. And that's awesome. Make that your North Star. How are you going to put your business case around that? And again, when people go to put that business case together, they're looking very often and coming to us for, well, what are the benchmark insights from people that have migrated and modernized ahead of us? And back in 2022, the Hackett Group, who we worked with, actually surveyed over 1,000 customers who have executed a large-scale migration and modernization. And they actually came away with figures that customers shared with us. So again, that top left-hand one, that business agility, so crucial for us all. And customers have found a 43% reduction in time to market for new application features. That's awesome. Yes, that's what we're striving for. Really crucially, though, for me as a former CTO, boy, do I care about operational resilience. I don't want those 3 a.m. calls. I want to limit them as much as possible. They're not fun for any of us. And again, customers see a 69% reduction in unplanned downtime. Fantastic. And then the carbon reduction opportunity, where we see these migrations and modernizations revealing an 88% lower carbon footprint. But I recognize these are benchmarks. You need to get to your own business case for your own leaders to demonstrate the value for you. And this is where our AWS Cloud Economics team can really help for you. They're there to help you engage with your account manager to get to these folks. First step's a call, get the right teams involved, gather the data. Let's do some analysis and refinement, and then help you generate to that North Star that you've chosen. What is your business case? Where are you striving to get to here? And we see customers like 3M who have migrated over 2,200 applications in 24 months, ramping up and getting great momentum and speed to actually deliver over 500 applications cutting over in just 12 hours. That's a fantastic result. We want you to succeed in a very similar way. Now, after that executive engagement, that business case, the second most powerful lesson learned is really understanding and having a single-threaded leader in your business. And we're very privileged to have Ashish from Danske Bank, who asked as their single-threaded leader, who's going to share his story a little later. And this person, she or he, can remove blockers in your organization. They're there to make sure that you've got the resources you need. They're going to bring all the stakeholders who are needed very often, who want to be involved. We don't want to have this done to them. We want them to be involved across procurement, legal, all the areas that you may have in IT, and here's just some exemplars, all the way through to human resources. We know, and I know from my journey, that actually my engineers went on a real change as they reskilled. It messed with their autonomy, their mastery and purpose. They're excited about going to cloud, but we want to help them on that journey, and that single-threaded leader is there to make sure we're cutting through and achieving that business case. Now, as I mentioned at the start, transformation comes through time and time and time again for enterprises and commercial organizations. As they're moving to cloud, they actually want to go faster, they want to achieve other goals. And it's really easy here. It's really easy here to strive to follow methods. Like one of the latest things I see customers talking about is platform engineering. And I would caution you here, before you strive to copy methods, really take a moment to establish your principles of how you do that. In Amazon, we love principles. We love principles. For example, that bottom middle one, if you build it, you support it. It's easy to say, but if you're a largely currently siloed business, and when I went to cloud, I had many siloed infrastructure teams operating that way. Well, if I move to you build it, you support it, that's going to fundamentally change how we're operating. And there are many, many benefits to doing that. And having a principle like that starts to allow you to coalesce and hold folks to it. Now, the next lesson learned is cloud centers of excellence. Now, I'll be honest with you, I have a little bit of a love-hate relationship with cloud centers of excellence. On one hand, I'm like, why should all of the expert people just be in one center of expertise there? On the other hand, getting some of your best and brightest folks together to act as a fulcrum of change can be incredibly powerful. And on my own journey, leveraging a cloud center of excellence was really, really useful. But again, some hints and tips where this can go really wrong. Putting together some of the best folks in here, having a leader who has the real emotional intelligence and intellectual intelligence to lead the change, communicate to the single-threaded leader, putting in place a team lead or a cloud architect in there, putting in place infrastructure cloud engineers. Some of the best cloud engineers I've worked with in my career have been former network engineers, former Linux engineers, who have a vast familiarity of infrastructure as code. Alongside, make your security team part of this. Bring them in. Your operations engineers, your third-party support folks, if appropriate, can you get one in? And of course, if you're going to build something, as many folks do as their first workload, software development engineers, if that's appropriate for you. Now, there's some real do's and don'ts that Oscar and I have seen over the years with this. This is an ephemeral team. Ephemeral. This is a temporary construct. It may be over time, this team becomes a cloud operations team. Great. I would caution you of setting this up as a mutable team. This team has to understand the new cloud patterns. If you're just bringing your previous on-premise design, then you're going to end up treating it as just another data center. So this team has got to seek out what good in the cloud looks like. And crucially, and I can't stress this enough, their job is to work to empower everybody to use cloud. This team, if it becomes a bottleneck, and I can pretty much guarantee in nearly every single customer I've worked with around the world, it initially becomes a bottleneck. You've got to work to break that. We've got to establish those essential patterns, not trying to boil the ocean. There's over 200 different AWS services. Let's establish the ones that you need for your business right now. And yes, this function needs to be technically self-sufficient. If this team needs to raise firewall engineers, and that's an external resource, that's going to be a problem. Let's bring a firewall engineer. Need a network engineer? Let's bring one in. This team needs to be technically self-sufficient as a virtual team. Now, if you're a very large business, and we're very privileged to work with many large customers, one of the immediate challenges that Oscar and I have seen is, well, when you've got a really large business, what do you centralize, what do you push into the federated teams? And again, there's no hard and fast rule here, but we want to give you something that you can take away with you. So typically in a centralized business, yes, enablement of the federated CCOE teams, hugely, hugely important. Things like PPAs or private pricing agreements, global networking address, RFC 1918 address space is always contentious. Global networking, master payer account structure, all of this makes a lot of sense. Crucially, security and compliance standards typically sit centrally. But if you're a really big business, there is true benefit to having a federated CCOE team that can work really closely with that line of business. They can enable their builder teams. They can make their availability choices. Maybe they might even have their own Amazon machine image, if that's what they need to do. So again, this is just guidance for you as you're working through that model. Now, the next stage as you're going through this and the lesson learned time and time again for us is please complete a migration readiness assessment. This can be done with AWS ProServe or an APN-approved MAP partner. We come in very, very objectively, not subjectively. We're looking across business, people, governance, platform, security, and operations to give you and your team, here's where we think you need to focus. And it just gives you a red, amber, green status across multiple fields of where we think you need to focus your efforts to make sure this is going to be successful. And that brings us to this question. Should I bring my existing tooling and architecture thinking to the cloud? And of course, in any software infrastructure decision, it depends. But some lessons learned. When I went to the cloud, we started off like this. Let's have prod, staging, and dev as big AWS accounts. Now, this can work. This can work. But it does lead to being complicated over time. And best practice leads us to have an AWS account to a team. This AWS account acts as the ultimate blast radius for security and billing. It can accelerate these migrations. Now, if you're getting going, I would encourage you to, of course, learn about what an AWS account baseline is. But please don't spend time building Landing Zone or the infrastructure as a code to bring that to life. AWS Control Tower is your very best friend as you are getting going here. This will allow you to bring in that Landing Zone layer, all of the best practice lessons learned of how to do that. It's going to help you centralize that identity, access, and logging, which is so, so crucial to moving forward. Yes, it's going to allow you to automate that compliant account provisioning, and crucially, specifically if you're a regulated business, it's going to help you establish those controls. And we have teams that can help you do that. I know, coming from a regulated business, that controls to understand what is a preventative control, what is a detective control, and crucially, what we offer as a proactive control at an infrastructure as code level, and the right approach is crucial to you making sure that teams are being compliant as they execute. What about if you want even more? What if you want help on the other things that are going on, the wider network implications? Well, for that, we have Landing Zone Accelerator from our AWS ProServe team. Please, 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 though, don't feel you have to build your own LZ or bring that and write that code yourself. Really, I have seen customers take up to 2 years to do that. Really, you don't need to do it. It can be done in a day or less, depending on the complexity of your infrastructure. You know, sometimes, quite rightly, many customers have complicated infrastructure that they're integrating in, but please take that advice from your solution architect or work with ProServe or a MAP-approved partner. Next lesson learned. You may or may not have application monitoring and orchestration all set up for you. Here's the partners that we work with. It really does help, though, when you're gathering your data to have this available. Here an example from Datadog. If you understand what your current latency requirements are, how that's working, how it's glued together, what applications, meeting what operational data store, what caching engine we're sorting, that really, really helps as you're looking to carve out and migrate certain workloads. Now, moving and closing before I hand over to Oscar on this full transformation experience. People very often put migration as a catalyst to then leveraging what we call as the Amazon 7 Rs. And Oscar and I have made some tweaks to them this year. I'm not going to run through all of them in detail, but I'm going to give you a little bit of an essence on some of them. Let's look at Rehost. Still incredibly, incredibly popular. Typically, folks are picking up their application, their operating system, whatever's running on that server, and they're moving it into an availability zone within a region. And your best friend here is the Application Migration Service. This is available to you with extremely wide support across a number of areas. So we look at any application, databases, operating system, and source infrastructure, including other cloud providers. And just to give you a quick look at how this works, yes, it runs as a region service. It can talk to VMware, or if you have standalone service, you can deploy the AWS replication agent. This will then do a continuous block-level data replication that's both compressed and encrypted to move your workloads into AWS. Very fast, Many customers use this with great efficacy, including, for example, Inmarsat, who are one that I've had the privilege of working with, migrated more than 1,500 servers to AWS with MGN. What about Relocate? Becoming an incredibly popular option. People looking at, yes, exploring the new Oracle database services, moving existing containers, leveraging AWS Outposts, leveraging AWS local zones, really popular. If you take a double click on Outpost services, either available in a 1U, 2U, or a full rack, a whole raft of different use cases I've seen customers use, including Morningstar, who actually puts them in their data center to use it as a hopping off point prior to moving it into a region. Available in over 75 countries and territories around the world for you right now. Of course, we've also got EKS Anywhere, not just running K8s in an Amazon region. Now you can run it in multiple different places depending on what your business case is. We also, you may have seen a recent announcement where we now have Oracle Exadata, including RAC, becoming available and starting in US East. Please have a look and explore that. If that's something that you want to use and leverage, we'd encourage you to attend the sessions on that. Many customers also coming to us going, what about moving to Nutanix as an option for various number of reasons I'm sure many of you are familiar with right now. Yes, we have offerings again to help you with that. I'm going to close with this full transformation experience. Many customers and many conversations I have right now are going, well, how does Amazon do this? Say we want to actually, we've made the decision on whether we're building, buying, or using. How does Amazon actually push its code? And I want to give you a little bit of a snip into how our teams operate internally. So we do treat teams as independent businesses, actually, these small teams. We are encouraging them to obviously give the right tooling to them in the development phase, work on the smallest thing possible, only local code branches, develop and test locally, really important. In pre-production, we're obviously looking and tracking those dependencies. We're packaging and building. We're running unit testing. Great. This is the difference that you may not have seen before. In production, there's actually 3 types of account an Amazon team will have: beta, gamma, and production. In beta, we're doing destructive testing here. We want to understand where the limits of it are. The team is going to do what they can to almost destroy it in beta phase. In Gamma, we're using synthetic data to test the rigors of it. We're using, of course, everything as infrastructure as code, both at the application and the cloud level. And in production, when we push code into production, we're turning our canaries up high. So observability-driven design, really crucial. If any of those canaries get breached, we're automating the rollback back. If you want to know more on this, your solution architect or ProServe are here to help you understand actually how Amazon does this. And when you're putting these teams together, whether you're migrating, modernizing, or transforming, remember this mathematical equation. This is 8 people in a team, 28 lines of communication with a simple mathematical formula. You put more people in, this scales exponentially, not linearly. So be mindful of your team sizes. And when you're going through to put these teams together in a transformation experience, remember the stages of group development. Remember that we go through forming, storming, norming, performing, and actually adjourning. And if you want to start building your own infrastructure, how are you going to help folks to do this at each stage of the journey? Making sure you're hiring, you're looking at that attrition, you're doing pair programming, you're delivering that value, you're shifting left. And are they at risk of actually replacing themselves with a service that's now available? Are you moving them on to the most important things? And strive to DevOps is really good, but so often people get distracted by this. Again, you're striving for methods rather than principles. I would bring you back to this. If you're moving to a team that's going to build, support, and iterate on something, then yes, they need to own their cost footprint. FinOps matters. Observability-driven design is starting to displace technical-driven design. You know, supporting everything 24/7 really important. Automation and iteration continue to be crucial. And now to move on to replatforming and refactoring, I'm going to hand over to my colleague Oscar.
All right, thank you, Jonathan. So it's a pleasure to be here. This is my second time delivering the same breakout session with Jonathan. The difference now we have Ashish, who is one of our main customers from Danske Bank. So I want to start with a quick intro about myself. My name is Oscar Rodriguez. I lead the global practice for expert services within AWS. Think about our team. We focus on bringing the top technical and industry expertise across the globe for customers and partners. And today I want to focus on two critical areas. So probably you're going to see a lot of announcements this week. Replatform and refactor. Let's start. What is the concept of replatform? It's the ability to migrate to AWS with minimum changes, but at the same time maximizing the AWS best practices. On the other hand, refactor is the ability to re-architect, redesign applications, but also bring in native AWS services. So let's walk through those together. When I look at replatform, you have many servers running in your data center. You can take those servers and move it to AWS. As you move those servers, they can be co-located across multiple availability zones. So what is the benefit? The system will be highly available, highly secure, and highly reliable. But you may wonder, what are the different options or pathways available? Number one, you can upgrade the operating system. This is something that a lot of companies are looking to get to the latest OS version as part of the migration. So how can they accomplish that? Number one, you can use Application Migration Service, or MGN. Jonathan described this earlier today. Or you can rely on some of the top partners that we have, like a Matilda Cloud, River Middle, just to mention some of them. And we have many, many other partners. The second pathway, this is something that is becoming quite popular, which is, I see a lot of companies, they want to move to containers. They may have legacy applications running on Java or .NET, but they don't know how to containerize. Most important, they want to get it done super fast, and they want to have a cost-effective solution. So to that end, we have developed a nice tool called AWS App-to-Container, which is, number one, will allow you to assess all the artifacts that you have in your environment, look at the dependencies. Number two, it will create the Docker containers for you. And finally, it will have all the artifacts ready to go in case they want to deploy it on ECS or EKS. The third pathway probably is nothing new for this audience. Open source remains popular. So what is the difference? What I have seen in all the customers that are working across the globe, I see a lot of customers that are moving away from enterprise Microsoft Windows license, and they're moving to Linux. But also another big trend is a lot of customers, they are using porting a system for .NET. This tool allows companies to migrate large number of Microsoft .NET applications to .NET Core. It's a very simple process, and I highly recommend for you to give a shot. Therefore, a pathway that I think Jonathan briefly described above, and I highly recommend for you to look at the announcements that are coming this week, is a lot of the companies that my team and I were working on, they're looking for ways to automate their workflows, their pipelines. If we look at the basic pipeline, think about we want to deploy an application. Maybe it would require to connect to some GitLab, GitHub, containerize the application, go through some of the testing. And at some point, once we have the application ready, we need to look for some of the approvals and finally deploy to applications. This sounds like a very basic. The reality, there is a lot of complexity. If you try to do this manually, probably will be a lot of work. The benefit of bringing DevOps, it will be number one, you can automate the entire pipeline. And most important, you can reuse across multiple environments. The fifth pathway, this is another one that is one of my favorite pathways, is a lot of the companies these days, they're looking for ways to migrate large volumes of data that they may have in Oracle or SQL Server to more modern databases like Aurora, RDS, Redshift, just to mention some of them. The fastest way to move the data is by using the database migration service that we have, also known as a DMS. DMS is a framework similar to MGM. If you guys recall, MGM is being used for application migrations. DMS is focused for database migrations. We have proved this service across more than 1 million databases that we have migrated as of today. But you may be wondering, what are some of the main benefits of DMS? Number one, it's a full managed service, meaning you don't need to worry about the infra. Number two, it provides multiple options from a source to target. This is really important, especially as I see a lot of customers that are looking to migrate enterprise Oracle databases, SQL Server, and they don't know if they need to continue using the same database or they want to continue using maybe a non-SQL database. So we have plenty of options from a source to target. Number 3, highly available. This is super important, especially if you are doing large migrations, you're replicating data from your on-premise environment to AWS. You want to make sure the system is highly reliable. So what happens if something goes down? So DMS has the ability to recover at any point. And most important, DMS is free. The only thing you have to cover is the infra that is provisioned behind the scenes, along with any data transfer costs associated. The second point that I want to make, also we have DMS as a serverless, which is another option that you can explore as you look at to move more data. In addition to DMS, also we have DataSync. What is DataSync? It's one of the frameworks that allow companies to move large number of files to AWS. You may want to put those files on S3, FSx, or even EFS. So what are the different scenarios? Let's walk through those. You may have a large big data system running on Hadoop, so you can move those files through DataSync. Second scenario, a lot of customers, they're also looking to use Outposts, and they have S3 collocating Outposts. Again, second scenario, you can use DataSync to move this data back and forth between Outposts and AWS Cloud. And the last one, this is an option that is becoming really popular these days. A lot of companies, they're building the multi-cloud environments. They're looking for a way to move data back and forth between Google Cloud and AWS or Microsoft Azure and AWS. But in addition to the scenarios that I described, there is also, we have the ability to also move data internally. This is super critical, especially I see a lot of companies that maybe are using FSx to process large volumes of data, and maybe they have a large data science pipeline. And once the process is done, they may want to push the data to S3. So DataSync is the right option. But you may be wondering, what would be a nice example to showcase of the value of the platform? The example is SAP Concur. We helped them to migrate more than 85,000 Microsoft SQL Server databases in less than 1 year. The main benefit, we helped them to reduce the TCO to 72%. In addition to that, now we're working with SAP Concur to see how can we further optimize their environment to support more countries. Now that I cover the platform, I want to spend some time on the refactor part. So what is refactor? Again, is the ability to re-architect, redesign legacy applications using AWS services. Some of the options that you see in the slide on the left side, like the event decoupling, strangle pattern, domain-driven design, those options are still valid. We see a lot of companies still using those options to move more towards to synchronous microservices. But I want to focus primarily on the trending options, on the options that my team and we have been working really, really hard over the last year, which is hyperautomation and GenAI. So what is hyperautomation? Very simple. Have the ability to automate as much as you can all those manual tasks that are part of your migration or modernization pipeline. In my experience working with customers across the globe, we're able to automate close to 80% or 90% of those migration tasks. So how this translates into benefits? Like one of the customers that I worked 3 months ago, the original migration timeline was 5 years. By using hyperautomation, we're able to reduce to 2 years and a half, so half of the time. So that's one of the benefits. The other nice feature of hyperautomation, this is a multi-tier solution that we have built in partnership with Danske Bank, but also we have built in partnership with Cudover. Cudover is one of the top partners that we have. They specialize on building runbooks for migration modernizations. So why, you may wonder, what's the difference between all the tools that are available and what you guys build? So what is the difference? The difference, the approach that we designed is a data-driven approach where number one, by using Cudover, Cudover can connect with multiple data stores where you may have the metadata associated with your applications. How many of you are familiar with metadata tools like a CNDB? You may have the data on Excel, maybe somewhere else. So Cutover has the intelligence to connect to all those different data sets and also be able to build some kind of like a data mart for lack of term. Once you have all this in one single place, now that's the time to start building this data-driven approach. The beauty is Cutover also is coming with some predefined templates. But the main benefits of this approach is you don't need to worry about trying to do all these manual steps. If you have the right metadata and you have the right template, you can start. The second benefit of this solution, Cutover provides integration with multiple options that we have across AWS. You may recall MGN, DMS, Data Sync, Cutover can integrate. But here is one of the best features that Cutover recently they just announced, and I highly recommend for you to look at them this week. They recently announced Cutover AI. So what is this feature? It's the ability to auto-generate runbooks with no human or minimum human intervention. So you have, for example, 200 applications and you want to create those runbooks, you can use Cutover, and Cutover will generate those in behalf of your company. The second benefit, also Cutover provides the ability to summarize the complexity that you have in your runbook. How many times you have seen a migration runbook that maybe has 300, 500 steps? And who knows the complexity? Probably maybe one or two people. By bringing Cutover AI, it can help you to create an executive summary of those runbooks. And the last one, which is maybe one of my favorite features, Cutover also can help you to optimize those runbooks. If you want to optimize those runbooks for performance, velocity, Cutover AI can give you all this guidance. So that's very important and highly recommend you to reach out to them this week. For a session without GenAI is not a session. So one of the questions that comes quite often from customers is, how can we use GenAI? How can we use Amazon Q Developer to accelerate modernizations? One of the features that we have is Q Developer Code Transformation. This is something that my team and I, we have been working with probably more than 20 customers over the last 6 months, helping them to upgrade applications like a Java. Like I have a customer, they have a Java 8. We helped them to upgrade from Java 8 to Java 17 in less than 1 week. The customer itself, the original plan was to migrate do the upgrade in 6 months. So we went from 6 months to 1 week. And that's something that we're still testing, we're still improving. Highly recommend for you to give a shot. And this week, don't be surprised. We're going to see new features related to Amazon Q Developer. For some people here may be wondering, what about mainframe? Is mainframe still a priority, or is AWS investing? The short answer is yes. We have been investing on mainframe over the last 6 years. For instance, in 2022, we launched a new cloud-native service that focuses on driving the entire transformation from the time you are analyzing the mainframe application, your legacy environment, all the way up until you deploy in production. We have available. What are the main benefits? Number one, it's a full managed service. Number two, it incorporates all the different pathways, patterns that Jonathan and I will describe. So it's available right there. Number three, also, it provides the capability to integrate with multiple partners and tools. You may have a tool like Model 9 that focuses on transferring files from mainframe to AWS. Absolutely, we can do the integration. But before I hand it over to Ashish, I'm sure you guys are literally looking to learn more about the case study. I want to close with one of the top offerings that we have across AWS, which is EBA. This is experience-based acceleration. Think about this as an interactive workshop where in a minimum 3-5 days, we come to you. We're bringing some of the top experts, technical, industry. We're bringing some of the tools that we described. And you, along with your team, we get in a room and we start building. We start showing you what is out of the possible, what can be done with all the different frameworks that we described. I highly recommend for you to try the EBA. We have EBAs that we specialize on migrations, modernizations, generative AI, and more. And with that, again, thank you for your time. I'm going to hand it over now to Ashish. He's going to talk about one of the top use cases that we have across AWS. Ashish.
Thank you, Oscar. Hi, everyone. Hopefully you're still awake. I'm here today to tell you what my dear friends Jonathan and Oscar have been telling you about the 7 R's should belong in history and history alone, and why we can do significantly better. And why should you listen to us? It's a pleasure here to be here today representing Danske Bank. We are one of the largest Nordic banks. We have over 3 million customers in personal and business areas, as well as over 21,000 employees across 10 countries. So we have a bit of scale behind us. We are a leading bank in a digital age, and we want to continue to be there. And that is what our ambition is. So what does it take to do that? To do that, we want to ensure that we have constant access to the latest and greatest in technology and use that to deliver benefit to our customers. Case in point, GenAI, anyone? You can't take 2 steps these days without seeing something about GenAI. We're there too. So it's pretty clear that for doing what we want to do in our ambition, that we needed to take a cloud-first approach. So we want to provide all of our customers with the latest and greatest that we can build in features, in functionality, but do that without having to build everything from scratch and utilize the powerful services at a global scale provided by AWS. So what's the problem with this? Why can't we just go on and do it? Well, to do what we do today, although we do it well, it takes a lot of scale. We have over 1,000 applications, and that's just purely private cloud across many, many, many environments, across many servers, large quantities of data, and over 60,000 containers running in our ecosystem. Now, to utilize these services, as you can tell, we need to get all of this stuff over to AWS. Now, typically, for organizations our size, this is a 5 to 8 year problem. We simply don't have that kind of time, nor the will to do it. So luckily, we've been able to do something a little bit different, and I'll tell you a little bit more about what we're doing and how we're doing it, which is essentially an implementation of everything that Jonathan and Oscar have been telling you about through their talks. When we started, it took about 2 years for us to put the first 4 applications into production, and not just technically, but organizationally, building all of the things, building the COEs, building the basic structures, et cetera, that Jonathan talked about. But from there, we have now been able to get to the point where we're moving over 100 applications in a month. Now, that is scale. Granted, it takes a little bit more or less with complexity of application, but largely, it's a big, big change. So how have we been able to really do it? We've got 3 key lessons that we wanna talk you through. They're spread across organizational and technical, and I'll spend a little bit of time on the technical bits as well. But the first bit is, this is not just a technical problem. This is also not just a technical change. It is very, very heavily organizational, and we have to pay a lot of attention to that. You always start with the why. We make sure that we are in lockstep with our business, and everyone understands the change and why we're making that change. For us in particular, as it would be the case for many of you, we have to remain compliant in a highly regulated industry. I mean, we're a bank after all. There is a dramatic need to change the organization's understanding on what cloud is and why we utilize cloud. Now, this is quite a stark thing. Cloud is not a new thing, but today we're still in a position where many, many, many organizations can make the mistake of thinking of cloud like just another data center. And that can be quite fatal to the journey. That is also quite a dangerous thing to think about. We need to bring our people along the journey with us. We need to upskill them. We need to give them the knowledge to be able to utilize these things that we're putting up in cloud at the scale, at the speed that we want to, and to gain the benefit that we really want to. Don't be afraid to set some ambitious goals for yourself. Set the ambition forward. Do it better than most other people have done before, because you can. And that will foster a culture of finding all the efficiencies you possibly can. And that is one of the big things you can do for your teams, to allow them to think in the free space that they need to. Also, Don't try and do everything yourself. There are partners here that have done this many, many, many times, and at least leveraging those learnings and building on them is super critical. We're doing that, obviously, with AWS and a few others. Second, automate, automate, automate. In 2024, there is very few reasons to be doing anything in a manual scale. And previously, this problem has been solved extremely manually, and that is kind of what takes a lot of time. We have access to more data about our things than we can possibly imagine. Remember that whilst we have been growing our organizations, all of our partners have been doing the same, and the access to data, to features, to functionality available from all of our partner ecosystem is way, way, way beyond what is typically imagined to be the case. So how do you get into it, and what's the difference? But it's important to understand why does it take as long as it takes. So how does it typically work across the organizations? Imagine this. You take a few applications, and we need to move them to cloud. What do? We assemble a team of people, and that team of people, somewhere between 4 to 8, 10 people, starts dissecting the application, starts to understand the dependencies associated with it, the inward, the outward dependencies, the firewall rules associated with it, all the DNS configuration associated with it, what's the operating system running, what are the applications running, and plethora of these things. What are the compliance requirements that we need to be meeting, and so on and so forth. Now, this can be somewhere between 5 to 100, 50 to 100 data points, probably more, and in our case, a lot more. On the flip side, what do you do with this data? You go ahead and build a runbook. Oscar said somewhere between 100 to 400 steps, depending on the complexity of applications. And you kind of go in and you build these things in order, and you do it per application, and in many, many, many cases, per application environment. This is prone to error. It takes a lot of time. And it's very, very heavy manual, which is also very expensive. What did we do? What we did is leveraging the ecosystem of applications and partners and the APIs that provides and the functionality that provide. We started collecting all of the data we could possibly imagine into a data mart. And we then exposed all of data out over APIs into a migration engine that we built, which is what Oscar referenced. We're building that together. And then use that to automate building of these runbooks, which can take a lot of time and very, very all-consuming process. So what is the effect of doing it the way we're doing it? Well, typically, if you're doing this manually, this is known to take somewhere between 3 to 4 weeks to create one runbook of various complexities. We now do this in 2.5 seconds. That changes things. That changes things in a way that you cannot imagine. It frees up capacity, it frees up mind share, it frees up effort where it should belong, which is pushing the boundaries forward, making efforts towards modernization rather than just the move. Now, this also is why I said we can do things differently. Allowing for this level of automation has a lot of ancillary benefits. We don't have to think about individual applications belonging to one R lane alone. We can make many, many, many changes on the fly because the error rates on those changes is dramatically low. And when you build something, you build it once into the automation engine, rather than having to build it, design it, and then train an army of 100 to 200 people in trying to execute the exact change flawlessly across every environment, across every application. Next to impossible, just doesn't work. But we can do that now. Quite a few examples of this is we're not just lifting and shifting. We can change, as an example, a microsegmentation solution working a certain way on-prem into a completely native solution without the application needing to change one bit. We can also change things like load balancing going to completely native without bothering with any change on the application layer. And this is very, very, very powerful, because this is one of our biggest learnings as well. One of the big things, or almost the biggest thing that disrupts cloud transformations across the globe, is the impact and the effort required by various application teams. Because you have to remember that moving to cloud is not the goal. The goal really is to grow your business and move it forward. and make functional changes and bring functional things into your application estate, which is where the time really should be spent. But typically, when going through the migration journey, it is so onerous on the application teams that there's organizational fatigue that sets in, and we kind of almost forget that this is really the first part of the journey. There's a long way to go here, and long, long, long road to achieving lots of benefit which can come from it. This solution and this way of approaching the problem takes that away. Very, very limited effort and impact on our application teams, which allows them to continue doing what they do best and gain value for the business. Now, how do we do that? In our case, we can maintain, because we have automated almost everything that can possibly be automated, we can maintain the experience as it stands for the application teams without them really having to change anything. They run their applications the way they do today. All of the things are automated around it and provides them with the exact same setup, now in a dramatically different place. Also, this approach allows us to gather all of these data points to utilize for automating a very large part of the modernization journey, which can be anywhere between re-platform to re-architecture to many other things. And those are the things we can do. Now, all of this solution was too good to keep just to ourselves, and that is why we have been working pretty extensively with Oskar's broader team to bring it to everyone. We launched that solution, which is known as Danske Bank Leon, and this is now available through AWS Rapid Migration Service. This is also fully published as a use case. You should look it up. It allows you to orchestrate and automate lots and lots of migration tasks, almost everything in our case up front. There will be things that we do, but there'll be more to do here. It's very extendable. So the more we do, the more patterns we find, the more we automate, the more it gets built up, and we continue doing that. We can maximize scale because we're not relying on humans, and we're not relying on human intervention to achieve this scale. So we can achieve speeds that will otherwise not really be possible in transformations like this. We can also do lots of centralized migration data management and reporting. So in many cases, being extremely transparent about how the migrations are progressing removes disbelief from the organization. In our case, almost all of our reporting comes directly from the system. The entire organization at any time can look at the status of any application of where that is at in the journey, the exact step in the cutover runbook that it's running at, and it's fully transparent to the entire organization. All reporting comes directly off that. There's no need for anybody to be in disbelief in any way. Once again, available through the AWS Rapid Migration Service. Please look it up. Now, just the final thing from me. There's a lot of takeaways here. A lot of organizational takeaways, a lot of technical takeaways, but there's a few that are quite important. Communicate a lot. Do not underestimate the importance of communicating this widely and repeatedly over and over and over to the entire organization. In this case, there is no such thing as over-communication. In our case, one application team gets about 8 to 9 pieces of communication from us very repeatedly. Don't miss it. Automation tools and tooling and the thinking has matured dramatically from what it used to be. We can now go after very, very high levels of automation, achieving everything that we do. Don't shy away from it. Go after heavily automating everything you possibly can, and avoid doing anything manually as much as you possibly can. You have most of what you need to do this already in your ecosystem. You don't have to go out and buy too many new tools or implement new things to do this. All of your products that you've got currently utilized to achieve what you are achieving in your businesses also allow you to take the data out and use it meaningfully in an actionable way. Remember that. Remain compliant. Compliance first is always the policy. The number one thing that can derail any organization is the thinking or even the inkling that we are doing something that is non-compliant to a policy externally or internally. Very, very important to ensure that that is addressed up front and there is no notion of non-compliance or cutting corners in the ecosystem. Change the organizational mindset dramatically. Train people communicate a lot far and wide about the approach, about what we're doing, about why we're confident. Very, very important. Spend the time with the people. They are everything. Upskill the team. Spend the time on the entire organization being upskilled to then consume and receive what this brings to the organization. Set ambitious goals. Don't shy away from that. Don't look at the rest of the world and what's happened before, but go for where we are and how we can push the boundaries a lot more forward. Finally, don't try and do everything yourself. As Jonathan accurately mentioned, a lot of these things should be seen as ephemeral. We should not try and set up immutable teams to try and do all of these things. That also means leverage the partner ecosystem. Lots of solutions are out there, new things getting built all the time. This is one such example. Work with AWS, work with other partners to really achieve the goals that you really want to. And with that, if there's one thought I want to leave you with, it would be this. In the end, the choice really is yours. You can watch the world go by and wait for an evolution to happen, or you can be the evolution yourself. We chose to do the latter. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashish. And this is an incredibly dynamic space. This changes every single day. It's a real privilege of mine to try and keep up with this and bring you the very latest insights. I'm extremely excited of what the professional services team and Amazon Web Services have developed with Danske Bank and how it's evolving, and the ecosystem of partners where we've mentioned Cutover, along with many of the Amazon Web Services tools that allow you to go really fast here. And to wrap this together, we do have the Migration Acceleration Program. This is now an extremely mature service that has existed for over 8 years. This has helped thousands and thousands of customers to migrate, brings together that migration methodology that is changing all the time, as you can see from this presentation, brings together that ecosystem of tools, brings together those partners, that AWS investment, that training, and that professional services resource that's crucial to you succeeding. And I want to leave you with a couple of final things as you're going through. Don't let perfect be the enemy of good enough for you. Very often, and certainly this was true for my own journey, I wanted to build this crystal code palace of perfection as we were going that could solve all use cases. And progress matters. Progress is so important. As Ashish mentioned, there's going to be some things which you're not going to compromise on. Security, compliance. But everything else, I always found the most useful question was why? Like, why are we choosing to do this? So bear in mind Voltaire's quote. And leading on to other talks you might want to do, I would strongly encourage you to look at the presentation that the Vice President of Migration and Modernization is presenting tomorrow. That's Asa. She's doing an innovation talk. You're going to hear some really interesting announcements in the next 24 hours. And then there's also some follow-on sessions that you might want to look at to go just a little bit deeper. And with that, I just have one final recommendation. We really sincerely value the feedback that you give us in the sessions each year. I read every single comment. And with that, I'd like to say thank you very much for coming here today and attending the session.